Today, I'm reacting to Jake Gyllenhaal winning the UFC middleweight title. Now, if you were keeping up to date on UFC 285, you wanted to see Jon Jones return to the cage, then you were probably watching the UFC weigh-ins and fight night, and you would have caught the fact that Jake Gyllenhaal was there filming things for his upcoming Roadhouse remake, which when I heard that it was coming out, I just kind of scratched my head like, why is everybody remaking all these movies which are so fantastic in the past and they're just iconic and we don't really need a remake of them? Like Karate Kid, why did we remake Karate Kid? But either way, a lot of little clips came out. In the UFC cage, we saw Jake Gyllenhaal actually in front of everybody put on a big performance where he actually fights somebody and delivers a KO via round one. We're gonna look at those clips today and I'm gonna react to them and tell you what I think about them, because so often when actors put together fight scenes in the ring or in the cage, it's cringe worthy. It's so bad. And not only that, the person who is choreographing these fight scenes, I'm like, what the heck? I've seen the people actually do them, live occasionally, and you saw Jake Gyllenhaal do this from non-movie camera angles. Then you see it actually in the movie, and you think it would look so much better. But still, you're going, why do they overplay everything so much? So let's dive into this right now. So to start off, we see the pre-fight antics just before the bell sounds from Jake Gyllenhaal, calling for the crowd to make a bit of noise, bouncing around a little bit, just staying loose. I like all that. That to me, that's very realistic. Now we move into him circling, a couple little bits of evasion on the jab. To me, this part looks good. I mean, he has his hands fairly low down, but there are lots of fighters who keep that lead hand down and he just flinches out of the way to create a little bit of distance. When I started off and I watched that, I went, okay, here we go. This is realistic. But then all of a sudden, and probably for the sake of the movie, maybe they're gonna make some sort of cut in between, but after fading back, he just backs up and puts himself right to the cage. Now, the first thing which is really funny about this is the fact that he actually has to look backwards to see where the cage is. Like his peripherals aren't working, right? If I'm standing here and I back up and I hit my bum against this, I don't actually have to glance backwards, but we see Gyllenhaal back up, check, and that's a terrible time to take your eyes not off your opponent, because obviously if you're looking here, using sort of your peripherals to catch the edge of the cage, you can still see this guy. I can see both of them, but not as well as if I focus straight up front. So that in my mind is a big movie flaw. Hopefully that doesn't actually make it into the Roadhouse remake. Now from there, for some reason, I don't understand the purpose. Maybe it'll all be clear once we actually see the movie. If we see the movie, I'm not actually gonna go and see this movie. I have a thing against boycotting remakes. So for all of you who go and see the movie, but either way, it backs up. He gets his back to the cage and he just drops his hands and lets the dude come in and takes a couple big shots. I really wanna understand why the people who are choreographing these things always have the need to have people keep their hands down and take shots completely flush. No rolling with it. No, oh, he might slip or he might block. It's like blocking doesn't exist in fight movies. Somebody could explain that to me. That would be great. The one thing that I do like in this little sequence is he takes a punch, the other guy goes to get a punch off, and then he fires back. He actually does get a decent counter. I think the first one comes down to the body, he slams him to the body, and then up to the head, and then a big sort of gazelle left hook, which sends him stumbling, or his opponent stumbling. I mean, kind of a haymaker punch, draws back, swings through, and I actually did a haymaker tutorial the other day talking about it because somebody requested that. So you can give that a look if you're interested. But now we see the flying knee. Now, much of what we see in this flying knee, and many of you guys on the channel know this is sort of an area of expertise for me, getting these flying knees down is something I'm quite good at. We're never really gonna have the opportunity to sprint towards somebody unless they create the space for you and they're really rattled. So the guy was already hurt and Gyllenhaal gives a good little run, but I would advise anybody against actually starting from back here and sprinting towards somebody to get the flying knee off. But he traps the head a little bit, he lifts up, he does a nice job getting one knee elevated while the other leg throws back, just. Now we arrive at the point where there may be some spoilers for this Roadhouse movie sort of plot lines, because once he gets him down, he just starts beating on his opponent and the ref drags him off, and then he comes back to hit more. If you ever did that in the UFC or any fight sport, you go after the referee says stop, you are going to be suspended. If not, potentially even something worse. Like you get charged, I think, with some sort of assault, maybe, I don't know, 100%. Never really seen anybody do it to this extent. I'm guessing this is gonna be part of the movie if Jake Gyllenhaal's character actually wins a UFC title, or would have won if he didn't do something illegal, then potentially he gets stripped. He's not allowed to fight anymore, and now he has to go and be a bouncer at a club or a bar. That makes sense to the storyline of the movie, potentially. That's where my brain's going. I might be wrong. You guys can let me know if you think something else is happening in those comments. But that's the general sense I get. When I saw this, I went, this is a really cool scene because they actually get in on the UFC weigh-ins. They actually get in on UFC 285. They do some filming which is legit and not in a stage where there's just crowds of people there who are not real. That to me is all very awesome. I just wish, fight-wise, they would have somebody do a better job doing the choreography for these. And of course, when it's on the big screen, I do understand it might look better, but I've watched, again, so many of these fight movies, and it just always comes off being like, nobody fights like that. Like, why can't it look a little bit realistic? Why can't we have a dude get hit, put his back to the cage, block a couple shots, and then counter, as opposed to doing all the ridiculous, dramatic movie stuff? But I guess at this point, people should recognize that movies are not reality. They are not real. But as somebody who loves fight sports, it would be great to see them put in a little bit of research and just make it look a little bit more realistic. Anyway, the main thing that I'm actually interested to hear from all of you is, are you going to go to the theaters and see this new Roadhouse movie when it comes out? Conor McGregor is in it. If that is something that you're interested in, for me, I'm just going to keep watching the Patrick Swayze original. That to me is a classic, and it's one that I really enjoy. So that wraps it up here. If you guys enjoyed the episode, please give it a like. If you haven't already, join the channel, get subscribed. As always, train hard. I will see you back here soon for another video.